Good morning. And thank you for inviting me to be here this morning. We've had two great explanations and going into depth about online privacy, which is great. I want to offer a slightly different perspective, one that should be of interest to everyone in this room, and that's the consumer perspective. Because while you all may have a business, you are also all consumers of the Internet. So I could ask for hands to raise, but is there anyone in here who does not go online, who does not occasionally shop, who doesn't do a search, who doesn't send a photo, who doesn't communicate via email, or perhaps even participate in a social network? I doubt that is the case. So you are all consumers of online services, and therefore you all are also concerned about your own online privacy. So I want to make 3 points this morning. One is that privacy is important to all users of the Internet. And secondly, there are several ways to help consumers address their online privacy concerns. And third, there's a good deal going on here in Washington at the agencies as well as on the Hill in the area of online privacy and other online consumer issues. So first, the consumer interest in online privacy. Well, as my introduction said, I am very concerned about online safety for all consumers. So a couple of years ago, I did a survey and asked the respondents what they considered to be an online safety concern for them. And I was very surprised when I got the results because I expected, as some of you might, that people were concerned with sexual predators and that sort of thing, that the issue that rose to the top was their online privacy. Over 90% of teens, adults, and older adults said they were either somewhat or very concerned about their privacy online. So after that survey, I did a follow-up survey to dig a little deeper about online privacy. And here's a couple of findings that I got. First of all, consumers think they're knowledgeable about their online privacy, but many are unaware of how their activity and behaviors can be followed and collected online. So some of the information that Mamie just described about data collection, collecting information about your behavior online and using that information. And while for most consumers this may at times be helpful when you're going to Florida planning a trip and you do some online searches about hotels in Florida, you may notice that you get some ads on the side about renting a car in Florida or about entertainment in Florida. And that's perhaps helpful to those of us who are doing searches. But I think the key concept here is that consumers are unaware of how that activity is connected and how it's used for commercial purposes. So that was finding number 1. Finding number 2, and this may come as no surprise, but it was a confirmation, or an affirmation, I should say, of what we all probably intuitively know, is that consumers don't read their privacy policies. So when you go online and in the small little print, which has been the government has been so helpful and industry has been so helpful to put that privacy policy on the websites, consumers don't open them up and read them. We're not surprised about that. How many of us read privacy policies when we go online? So that's the other thing that we found. And so while companies work real hard to cover themselves legally in these privacy policies, they're pretty hard to get through for most consumers. And we all tend to want to get online quickly, get our information quickly, and get off. So we don't really spend the time to delve into the details of what they are doing with our information, how it's being collected, how it's being used, but all of that is contained in these privacy policies. So those were the findings. So how do we address some of these issues? Well, first and foremost, education and awareness to help consumers understand what happens online and help them understand Secondly, what they can do about it. There are industry tools that are available. Most websites have privacy controls. Facebook, for example, the biggest social network, has privacy controls. And I'm sure if you ask your teen, they'll be able to show you what those privacy controls are all about. They help us perhaps limit everyone's access to our information. And so it's important to take a look at the privacy controls that are already available and be aware that they are there. And there has been an industry response of late to also try and address some online privacy concerns, to make privacy policies clearer, to have more information up front when you enter a website about privacy and how they handle privacy. So there has been some progress in that area. Now, as Mamie mentioned, I want to talk about what's happening on the Hill. She gave you a good idea of what's happening at the FTC. And at the same time, Congress has been looking at online privacy. There have been numerous hearings. There is also draft legislation from some of the leaders of the Commerce Committee in the House of Representatives. Representative Boucher and Representative Stearns have draft legislation that they released in early May. And it addresses online privacy. As they themselves have said, it's not designed to regulate the Internet, but to provide privacy guarantees that will enhance users' experience on the Internet. So what does it do and what doesn't it do? Well, first of all, it doesn't intend to inhibit targeted advertising. The sponsors, Boucher and Stearns, believe that targeted advertising has been successful and enables a lot of useful content to be provided free to online users, as I mentioned. It does call for entities that collect information to prominently disclose what information is collected and how the information is used. It then proposes a system for consumers to have some control over the collection and use of that information. I'm sure you're all familiar with the opt-in, opt-out concept. So the draft legislation requires that consumers have the opportunity to opt out of their information being collected, except for very sensitive information, and that they provide an opt-in option. In addition to the Boucher-Stearns draft legislation, Congressman Bobby Rush from Illinois has just also introduced a bill, and I love this title. It's H.R. 5777, if you want to go look it up online. Here's the title: Building Effective Strategies to Promote Responsibility, Accountability, Choice, Transparency, Innovation, Consumer Expectations, and Safeguards Act. However, he also calls it the Best Practices Act of 2010. So, okay, that's a little easier to get around.